What's up, YouTube? Redbeard's Garage, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be tearing apart the Predator off Skittles, and we're going to clean the carburetor, drain all the fuel and the oil, and then remove the governor and put the 18-pound valve springs on it so we can get Skittles up and going again. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Okay, here's the non-Hemi Predator that came off Skittles. First thing we've done is taken all the nuts and bolts off of the gas tank. There's two at the rear, as you can see there and there. And then if you look up at the front, there is a bolt right there that you have to remove, and then you can pull the gas tank off. Now this gas tank has about a half tank of fuel, so what I'm going to do is use a siphon tool to siphon out the top of it that I have and get all the gas I can out of it, then flip the can over and probably take it outside and set it on the tailgate of my truck, and then unhook that line, so just in case I spill gas, I ain't spilling it all over my workbench. So let's get to this. Okay, we got the gas tank removed. Now we're going to take these two bolts off and remove the carburetor, the air filter, and the carburetor. So we need to take off the top of this and make sure there's nothing. I'm not too positive on these older Predators. See, they have a square type filter down in them, and looks like we're good to go. I don't see any screws, so I'm going to take these two side bolts off and pull that out, then pull the carburetor off, and then we'll take the bowl out and clean the jets really well. Okay, we got the air box removed. Now all we got to do is unhook these springs and linkages. Now we're going to be removing the governor on this engine, so I'm going to go ahead and loosen that 10mm nut right there and go ahead and take this arm off, and then we can unhook all these springs and throttle linkages off. Now this throttle linkage we can reuse once we remove the governor, and I'll show you how to bend it up and what you need to do to set the throttle back up once the governor is removed. This spring is a really good spring to keep for a throttle return spring. It's got a decent amount of tension on it, so you want to make sure you keep this and that throttle linkage. Okay, on this carburetor we're going to take out this bottom, looks like it's a 10mm bolt, and that'll let this bowl come off, and then we can see how dirty the bowl is inside, as well as that main jet that's screwed in the same tube that this threads into. So once we take this out, we can slide a flathead up, and use a real good flathead because you don't want to strip this jet out, that's for sure. And take that jet out and that emissions tube, clean them really good with a just, I don't know, mechanics wire or something really small, and then clean the bowl out really well, and it should be perfect to run. Okay, we pulled that bowl off, and as you can see there is some trash down in there, so it was definitely time to get that bowl off there. So we're going to clean this really good with some brake parts cleaner, because that's all I have. Make sure not to use brake parts cleaner in the actual carburetor, but you can use it on just solid metal stuff like this. But look at all that buildup right there. But anyways, now we're going to stick a flathead right up there and pull that jet out in that emissions tube and give it a real good cleaning, and then this will be done. We can put it back together. Okay, we got that emission tube and the jet out. Now it's really hard to see if there's actually any dirt in here. I think that's pretty clean, but we're still going to give it a really good wipe down, and so you can see right through that jet. The emission tube may be what's dirty. You can see right through it as well, and it looks like through the side post, but nevertheless we're still going to clean this thing really well. Okay, we got those jets and emission tube cleaned all out. Now what I did was took my little jet drill bit set. This is probably like $10 on Amazon. It's really good to have. You can see how tiny the drill bits go. It goes all the way down to a number 80, and all the way up to a number 80, and all the way down to a 61. So those are good for jetting your own carbs, jetting your own carbs, because what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to see what those jets that's laying over there, those new aftermarket ones, are jetted to, and I'm going to start jetting all my stuff myself. See, here's a factory emission tube for a Predator Hemi motor, And then one of these jets is the larger jet and one's a stock jet, because when you buy these jet kits, they come with 2 size jets for you to see which one you like. I can't remember which one I used. I think it came with a 36 and a 37, so I can't remember which one I used on my daughter's go-kart, but these are the jets left over from it. So I'm going to start jetting my own jets with this drill bit set. So what I did was took a drill bit and slid through all these holes, and there was a few that was blocked up. And then I took brake cleaner, because the nozzle on my brake cleaner fit perfect right in there, and I just blew the far out of it, and then I held the end so it would force it through these, and clean that out really well. As you can see, they're all really well cleaned, and then did the same thing to the main jet. So now we can put this back in the carburetor and it's ready to go. Okay, now we're going to take the torque converter pulley off. It is on this one, it's a 9/16. On most of them, I believe it's a 10 millimeter. So we're going to pop this off real quick, and it may be hard to get off, which it is. So I'm going to use my electric impact on it. Alright, we got that bolt off, so now we can just slide the whole torque converter pulley right off. And the piece that was missing on this torque converter, there's supposed to be a brass like bushing that goes around that. So I ordered it, and it should be in the mail today, so that'll get that back to the way it's supposed to be. Okay, now we can take out these 10 millimeter bolts. There's looks like 6 of them. I've already drained the oil out of the engine, so it should be good to pull these bolts off. It's still going to leak a little bit of oil, so I always put a rag at the bottom of the engine to catch any excess oil left in the engine. Now I always get a paint scraper and get in between this to force the side cover off. And if you grab each oil filler tube, it's the easiest way to kind of work this thing off. You can slide that side cover off, and we're in there. Now that gasket actually came off really nice, so I should be able to use it. Again, it didn't rip any around this. I had a subscriber kind of gripe that I did that last time, and I've had no issues whatsoever with oil leakage. So as long as the gasket isn't ripped up any, you should be perfectly fine to reuse it. Now you can kind of see the governor gear right up there, that plastic gear, and then this little tube right here you also got to take off. So there's a pin on top of the engine we're going to pull off real quick. So you pull this pin off the top of that governor arm, and that'll let it drop down. You probably won't be able to drop it all the way out right now. And be careful, because the cam setup, this cam gear can fall out and let your valves fall out. So I always make sure, you know, I keep an eye on it and keep it in there. And if it does fall out, just make sure this little dot right here and this little dot right there is lined up. You know, you can spin it around until you get them lined up, so you know it's in time with each other. Okay, next we're going to take out those 2 10 millimeter bolts on that bottom oil sensor. So we'll get an extension that'll reach back there, or 8 millimeter, I'm sorry, 8 millimeter bolts that's in it. We're going to use this electric impact gun again. Just make stuff a lot quicker. Now I'm going to go in there, and you see that line that's going through the side of the block. I'm just going to cut it off flush up there where it goes through that nut. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of dark, and it's hard to get this camera at a good angle, but there's a bolt right there that we're going to cut this line off flush in. Okay, we got that line cut, and we can pull this oil sensor right out. Now this is trash to me. Somebody might want to leave it in there, but I always remove these because it's just less problems down the line. Next we're going to try to take out this gear cog for the governor, and it's really hard to get in there and see. I have a video on removing this. What I always like to do is and I'm not saying it's the right way by any means, but first you pull off this little nipple that's on the shaft that's in the center of that plastic gear, and then that'll let you see the, and there's also a washer in there you need to grab, and that'll let you see the little pin holding it onto that shaft. So we got that washer out right there. Now I can see in there to see that little pin, and there's an opening on one side of it you need to basically just bend out. Okay, we got that top cut off. Now we should be able to have enough room to slide that down through there. Sometimes you got to take something to knock it down in there because of the burrs made from the cut. But now that's the governor arm that goes to the throttle linkage, and we've got that taken off. Now we can tap this top hole and put a bolt in it to keep oil from slinging out. Okay, we got that tapped for a 1/4 and 20 threads per inch bolt, and we're going to put this in it and put some red Loctite because I don't ever plan on using that for anything else on this particular motor. So some people will put a little barb in it and use it for their pulse pump, but I always run it off the valve cover, and it's always done me fine. Now it doesn't take much of that red Loctite. I accidentally put a little bit more than I usually do, but we can now thread that down in there, and that'll keep it from ever coming out. Okay, now the last thing we need to do in here is just make sure we get all of our pieces of metal out from where we just tapped that hole. So I always spray some brake cleaner, and as you can probably see on that, there's quite a bit of metal shavings. So I always spray some brake cleaner because it's good about cleaning the gunk out of the engine. Right there you can see quite a bit of those flakes. So you want to make sure those aren't good for any kind of bearings or anything. So just make sure to give it a thorough cleaning before you shut this thing up. And then I would only run the oil that you're putting in it, you know, just for a little bit. I wouldn't even ride the go-kart. I'd put a 1/2 quart of oil in it, let it run for a little bit and really slosh it around, but don't ride the go-kart. Just let it sit at idle for, you know, 4 or 5 minutes, and then drain the oil, and then put your new oil back in it again. Just a good precaution to make sure you don't eat up any of those bearings or anything. As I stated before, we're going to reuse this side cover because the gasket actually looks really good on it. And like I said, I know people's going to give me crap for that, but I've never had a problem out of it. So we're just going to pop that side cover back on and put these 6 bolts back in, and then we can go ahead and put the carburetor back on, and the gas tank in this motor will be ready to start. Okay, next we need to take this original throttle linkage and bend it to connect this to the throttle arm right here. So what we're going to have to do is drill a hole in the top of this throttle arm for this piece right here to fall into, and then we just need to bend it over accordingly to fit in that gap. Okay, we got the engine all put back together and that governor taken out. As you can see back in there, we got that bolt all put in, and we got that carburetor that we cleaned put back on. Now we're just going to put the torque converter pulley on, and I did get the brass bushing that goes on the torque converter in the mail. So let's put this thing back together. Okay, we put the last and final piece on this motor, the tramp stamp of approval. So this thing is ready to go back on the Skittles go-kart. Ain't that right, Lonnie?
I don't think it's ready.
Probably not. But we got the torque converter belt. This bigger one is for it. So I guess we can start throwing the engine back on. Okay, YouTube, I forgot to put the valve springs in the non-Hemi Predator engine for Skittles. But we'll do that in another video because it's a completely different process than the Hemi valve spring change out. So hope you liked the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and always check out Redbeard's Garage for your go-kart needs. This is Redbeard's Garage, and I'm out.